If you've ever wondered what it is that the Reserve Bank Australia actually looks at when it decides on monetary policy, take a look at a publication on their website called the Quarterly Statement on Monetary Policy. The Quarterly Statement on Monetary Policy is made up, in fact, of briefing papers which are provided to the board for their meetings and gives you a pretty reasonable idea of what the RBA is looking at when it makes those interest rate decisions. There's two parts of the Quarterly Statement of Monetary Policy which came out last week that I want to talk about this morning. The first is the outlook for growth and inflation as published by the RBA, and secondly a section on employment and wages growth and where that takes our potential view of inflation in the years ahead. The scenario for growth and inflation that the RBA has published in this document may be referred to as aggressively flat. They provide a scenario of headline inflation between 1.5% and 2%. That gives you a 2% average. This half year, next half year, the end of next year, and going into the end of 18. That is to say, they think inflation, headline inflation, is stuck in this range between 1.5% and 2.5%. That is to say, at 2%. Right through to the end of 2018, they think that core inflation is stuck in the same range right through to the end of 2018. They think that GDP growth is stuck in a range between 2.5% and 3.5%. That is to say 3% through to the end of 17, but at the end of 18 it accelerates to 3.5%. And that gives you a scenario, if it is correct, of very, very little movement in any action by the RBA in the next little while. But it also suggests that if the RBA wanted to be a touch more aggressive with monetary policy, he's got plenty of room to move. And it's interesting that the most recent survey of Bloomberg shows that out of 26 economists in the Bloomberg survey, 4 believe, of course including me, that there will be a rate cut in the first half of next year, but 11 believe there will be a rate cut by the second half of next year. That is to say, most economists think that this very flat outlook will give the RBA the room to move rates lower by the time we get to the middle or the second half of next year. And perhaps the thing that's affecting those economists' view is the outlook for wages growth that's also contained in the Quarterly Statement on Monetary Policy. For the very first time in this document, I've seen a reference to what we might think of as the natural rate of unemployment. They say that the natural rate of the level of full employment is about 0.5% lower than the current level of unemployment. And the full employment level is in the Fed documents regarded as the natural rate. So if unemployment is now 5.7% and full employment is 0.5% below that, that suggests that the natural rate of unemployment is regarded by the RBA at about 5.2%, and that's pretty damn close to the estimate we've made previously of 5.3%. So what that really means that as long as unemployment continues above this level, then wages growth will tend to weaken. And indeed, what the RBA shows in this their measure of year-on-year wages growth is that year-on-year wages growth continues to weaken And as I've said before, year-on-year wages growth is the lowest this century. Part of the reason for the low wages growth is not so much that people are staying in jobs in which wage growth is low, but people are moving, they say, from high-paying mining jobs back into the normal economy where wages are lower. So it's that shift from high-paying jobs in mining to other jobs which is generating that very, very low wages growth. But I continue to point out that that low wages growth, which looks like there's no reason for it stopping in terms of what the RBA statement says, will continue to generate downward pressure on core inflation, and that core inflation might actually wind up at the bottom end of the RBA estimates, and that and another 10 economists like me think we'll be able to generate further rate cuts next year.